Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Louise. Oh, you broke it.
I went quick today.
You did. I was waiting. I was waiting. This is now our third week in a row of
It's
our,
the fourth week.
is it?
Yeah.
Of our little private joke. Listeners, are we annoying you? You can let
Yes.
us know if
You
you
can
want.
let us know. Yeah. Give us some
hmm
feedback.
Tell us if we're annoying you. We'll probably keep doing it, but
We'll enjoy that
feedback
too.
is good. Okay,
Well,
so here we are. We're wrapping up this book soon.
yes.
The
Anne's coming
Girls Who
on
Went
soon.
Away.
Hmm.
Anne Fessler, Search and Reunion.
Hmm.
Oh, goodness.
It was,
Very
well, we
sad.
always say that reunion's really another beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the Hollywood ending. We've always said
Mm-hmm.
it's not the wrap up. Oh, they're in reunion. It really starts the whole
Yep. As
thing.
we, anyone who's been a listener for so long
Yeah.
and hundreds of episodes will know it's usually not the ending.
No, here's a little quote. I won't read the whole thing, but this is from Barbara right at the beginning. Um, I'm going to start in where it says, then all of a sudden it was like, it's okay. You don't deserve to be punished. She's been in reunion now. You're not a screw up. It was an amazing moment for me to feel like I got put back together. And that has helped my relationship with my children and with everybody from that point on. My husband and I have an amazing relationship now. I accept things. I make decisions. I have a comfort with things. I'm my own person again. Barbara.
Yeah, and then right out the gate, Anne says of the women she interviewed, more than half have had contact with the child they surrendered for adoption. This percentage is no doubt higher than for the general population of relinquishing mothers, because in many cases it was the reunion that brought women out of the closet.
Mm,
Of the mothers represented who have been reunited, most all expressed great relief at knowing their child. They felt the reunion was the beginning of their healing process.
yeah. Same for
Um,
adoptees, usually, even if it's not great news, it's still knowing, just knowing.
knowing.
I think for
Um,
both of them, you're like adoptees and birth mothers, you're just wondering, like you're always
well,
in a
there's like
wonder.
there's a, there's something missing. It's, you're like missing a limb or something, it's that feeling that something isn't complete, something isn't right as an adoptee, right? And I
Yeah.
can only imagine
And
because I am a parent
yeah, the
of,
narrative, they loved you so much they gave you away,
oh my
confuses
gosh.
people's their whole lives.
I know. Well, and it goes into here too, about, the closed and private adoptions because
Hmm.
it wasn't until the 1930s, as we know, because we
Yep.
read The Baby Thief and
Yep.
Georgia Tann had her fingerprints all over this. But it wasn't until the 1930s that they began issuing revised birth certificates,
Yep.
putting the adoptive parents on. And it's still this book, when it was written, there were still states that hadn't changed
Right.
that had not allowed birth certificates. Now many do, but still don't. The
Yeah.
California being a perfect example.
California. Yeah, so open, but not so open, is it? Well,
No.
you know what also just talking about that, just even though this book is a little bit dated, it's not that dated, but the DNA is really blown up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, since then it was already starting, but now it's like a whole nother cowboy
Yeah.
land that
Yeah.
they can't control, thankfully.
And a lot
Um,
of these women felt that having reunion might affect their current, their other
yeah.
children. And, it's just so much, it's
Oh,
messy and
I'm glad you
confusing.
brought that up because they did say that usually, almost always, the siblings are excited to know about another
Mm-hmm.
sibling, which, I have siblings out there that I haven't contacted.
Yeah.
And the reason is because my living birth parent is scared to tell them. So I do think,
Which is so stuck in such an era that
yeah,
is
it was
I
nice to
was
hear that
thinking
most
about
siblings, yeah.
I was thinking about it earlier, because my half sister from my
Hmm.
father sent me a picture of him when he
Yes.
was in his 40s. But I was thinking about how I connected with her, which was just, even before DNA. It was back in 2010 or something. I looked on Ancestry and put his name, and her name popped up. And I'm like, I bet you that's a sister. And I just reached out without even thinking, just, hey, I think we're
Almost,
sisters,
it's almost
like,
better to do that.
and she was just like, I bet you are. Here's what I know, and it just, there was not even any kind of, uh, And she didn't mind at all. There was
No.
no, you know,
I wish my sisters were actually on Ancestry. I'm going to recheck because they're not, because then I would just send them a note like that. Like that's
hmm
it's almost easier. It's just a better, people just want to know each other. And then time goes by as another thing. Some of these mothers did find their children too late.
too
And
late. That was the other sad thing was talking about
yes,
and that there was one woman called the adoption agency and said, I want to give some health
yeah,
information. They're like, oh, we have the health information. So and so. She's like, no, I was
no, you don't.
17. You don't have any health information.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And we know that's a big thing. We have had people on actually who, if they didn't know, they wouldn't be here. If they didn't know
right,
some of their health, right? I mean,
right.
everyone
Or
wants to
and
know.
or I mean, we've had several guests who
Yeah.
that had they had that information, it would have Carolyn, for example,
Yes.
who
Right.
had she had information, it would have changed her whole life. Yeah,
Yeah. Here's the
uh,
part about adoptees. A common
right.
reason for adoptees not wanting a reunion or backing away is anxiety over conflicting loyalties to their adopted parents. Perhaps the
Mhm.
saddest reason that adoptees cite for not wanting reunion is the belief that they were already rejected in the act of surrender.
Right. Because that's what you feel, right?
People have told us that when they read this book or when they're reading this book, they're like, "Oh, I should find my birth mother. I didn't know this was, that's why the Georgia Tan book. That's why all of this is important. I think most people think this is the way adoption's always been. It's not. That's why the history is so important
I know.
because we can change it again.
Yeah, it keeps continuing to evolve. And then the very last uh, mother that talked, she said the very last paragraph, I began to see how my whole life had developed around this. It had a hell of a lot to do with why I had no children and why I was so lonely and why
Mm.
there was no man in my life. There have been men, but really inappropriate men who didn't mean anything to me. There was a certain kind of depression that I'd lived with for years and years. I did everything I could to not feel that attachment. With that wall breaking down, I started to feel just what I had done and what had happened to me in a way and at a level that I had never felt before. I was no longer numb. I related
Mm.
to her a lot,
Wow.
just having felt numb for a big portion of
Yeah.
my life,
Yeah.
and having so many walls. I really related to that and how then when it breaks open, it's just a shit ton of grief, you
It
know?
is.
Um,
It's a shit ton of grief. That's
yeah.
exactly the way. I actually thought about my birth mom, Linda, because she had a husband and several boyfriends. And then some of the comments around that were like, oh, wouldn't stay with a man. And I'm thinking, well, this all makes sense. I'm sure
hmm
she didn't want to stay with a man. I'm sure all of it was painful. Just
Yeah.
once again, how alike are we? I mean,
We're so much alike. I mean, I relate a lot to a lot of what these birth mothers
yeah,
talk about and feel and the manifestation
yeah,
of those feelings and just thinking about what you just said about, you know, people saying, "Oh, well, she can't keep a man,"
right,
whatever it is, I'm
right.
like, I was always the
Yep.
problematic, person. Like, well, how about investigating as to why that might be?
How about empathy around it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you do have a man that you keep. You have Woody.
I have Woody has to go to the doctor today.
Oh, Woody. Gracie's sad for him. Look, look at, I would like you to see that she sticks
He's
around now
look
because
at
she
him.
used to hide, have a new bed of safety. Look at
Look at
them.
Woody,
Oh,
unsuspecting that in
both
an
our
hour he'll
dogs are
be.
sweet. And by the way, people were twinning today, just so you
Oh,
know.
we are
That's another
twinning.
excitement to
If
share
you're
with
on
her.
YouTube, you'll see this. Not that our chapter reviews really don't get a lot of love on YouTube.
No, I think it's
People
more
go
of the
look at our
listening.
chapter reviews. Give us some YouTube love.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Thank you for that
Yeah, we
shout
need
out.
some YouTube love. Um, okay, so the next week we have Susan and Jennifer.
Yeah. And then we're
Those
getting
are very
close to
short.
having Anne.
Yeah, and
And
we're
then
close.
we're close. And our next guest reunion is a big thing with this guest. So that's kind of
Yes,
ties in.
as we were talking about it, I was thinking about his DNA test and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, listeners, you'll hear in a minute. So,
Okay.
well, that said, Louise, see you in a minute.
See you in a minute.